Have you ever felt like a small moment on stage can suddenly turn into a massive debate across an entire fandom? From a smile, a spontaneous gesture, to a single simple word, everything can be dissected, replayed, and given meanings far larger than what is visible on the surface. In this video, we will revisit the BTS concert and look at it not just as a musical performance, but as a space full of interpretation, emotion, and constantly evolving dynamics behind fandom spaces. Because behind moments that seem simple, like Jimin acting cute and Jungkook responding with the word cute, there are actually layers of storytelling far more complex than just on-stage interaction. So before we get carried away by emotions or circulating narratives, let's try to view everything from a more structured, calm, and clear perspective. Let's take a more comprehensive look back at the recent BTS concert. The concert was not just a musical performance, but a collective experience filled with energy, emotion, and small moments that quickly became public highlights and expanded across digital spaces. Within it, there were various interactions between members that fans later referred to as Jikook moments, including when Jimin made a small, spontaneous and cute gesture, and Jungkook briefly responded by calling it cute. At first glance, this moment seems simple, but precisely because of its simplicity, it became widely discussed again as it was seen as reflecting the warmth of their on-stage interaction. However, if we stop at the surface, we only see the concert as a series of viral, easily consumed sweet moments. In reality, there are deeper dynamics underneath, both in how audiences interpret content and how narratives are formed, evolve, and are reinforced within fandom spaces. Every stage moment no longer stands alone, but becomes part of a fast-moving, expansive, and often highly subjective ecosystem of interpretation. The first thing to note is how a small moment can transform into something far larger than its original context. In concerts, member interactions often happen spontaneously without any scripted structure. But once these moments enter digital space, they are no longer whole. Gestures, expressions, or comments can be clipped, replayed, zoomed in on, and assigned additional meaning by viewers. At this point, the boundary between stage reality and fandom narrative construction begins to blur. From here, the discussion shifts to a broader phenomenon: how fandom communities respond to, amplify, or sometimes ignore certain moments depending on their preferences. In many cases, public attention is not neutral. Some moments are massively amplified, repeatedly shared, and turned into central discussion topics, while other moments from the same interaction receive far less attention. Amid this dynamic, another incident also became a topic of discussion, related to visual media used at the concert. In this case, a spectator reportedly brought a support sign that initially looked normal, but then displayed a different message when the camera focused on it. This change sparked various interpretations among fans. Some people argued that the sudden change in message in front of the camera suggested premeditation rather than spontaneity, especially if the content was related to fan interpretation or ship-based edits. However, others felt that this interpretation went too far and could not be concluded without strong evidence regarding the intent behind the action. The core issue is not just the individual incident itself, but how such events are interpreted differently by a very large community. In some cases, actions that are considered inappropriate by some are seen as normal by others. These differences in perspective become the main trigger for recurring debates. The situation becomes even more complex when someone's digital footprint is used as a basis for judgment. In large fandom spaces, online activity history is often used to form assumptions about a person's credibility or intent. However, this approach risks generalization, because past behavior is not always relevant to the current context being discussed. On the other hand, criticism has emerged regarding inconsistent fandom reactions. Some moments receive immediate response, widespread support, and massive information sharing. Yet in other moments, especially those involving certain members or interpretations, the response can be much quieter, or even largely ignored by bigger accounts. This inconsistency creates a perception of double standards, even if it is not always intentional. This is also related to the role of large accounts or those claiming to represent OT7. Ideally, these accounts are expected to maintain balance and neutrality in various issues. However, in practice, not all of them choose to be active when controversies arise. Some remain silent, avoid conflict, or only respond once the issue has already spread. This behavior is then interpreted differently by the community, even though the motives behind it can vary greatly. In addition, there is also a narrative that the fandom is dominated by a certain group, such as Jikookers. However, this claim is often an oversimplification that does not fully represent the entire community. In reality, a fandom as large as BTS consists of many subgroups with different preferences, focuses, and ways of consuming content. For example, when activities or projects involving Jungkook and Kim Taeyoung are announced, public response tends to be very fast and widespread. Information is shared, schedules are distributed, and content is translated by many accounts. However, in other cases involving different interactions or members, the level of response is not always the same. This pattern shows that fandom attention is not evenly distributed and is heavily influenced by narrative preferences within each group. The same can also be seen in various BTS member collaborations. Some moments are celebrated massively, some receive only minor attention, and others are barely discussed at all. This difference is important when drawing broad conclusions about who supports whom, because attention distribution is not that simple. In more sensitive contexts, there are also cases of extreme behavior from certain individuals outside of concerts, ranging from inappropriate messages to threats toward artists. Such situations should be firmly condemned without exception. However, in practice, community responses are not always consistent. Some condemn it, some remain silent, and others try to rationalize the behavior. This inconsistency again becomes a point of discussion within fandom debates. Returning to the core of the concert, the real issue is not just one specific event, but how that event is debated afterward. Some see it as crossing a boundary, while others consider it exaggerated or misunderstood. This polarization creates a repeating cycle. An event occurs, different interpretations emerge, narrative conflict follows, and each side builds its own justification. If this pattern continues without clearer boundaries of understanding, what emerges is not just disagreement, but fragmentation of perspectives within the fandom itself. Each group eventually constructs its own version of truth, and the discussion space becomes more reactive than reflective. In conclusion, the main issue does not lie in one individual, one moment, or one specific group of fans. The deeper issue is how attention, interpretation, and response are shaped by existing preferences, emotions, and biases. As long as there is no consistency in understanding context and impact, debates like this will continue to repeat in different forms, but following the same pattern. Amid all these dynamics, small moments from the concert still remain the most memorable for fans. The warm interaction between Jimin and Jungkook is one of the most notable. Amid the bright stage lights and performance energy, there was a soft and spontaneous moment when Jimin was seen acting cute in front of Jungkook as Jungkook approached him. The smiles they exchanged created a warm atmosphere that fans quickly identified as one of the highlights of the night. Another small detail made the moment even more memorable. Jimin's uncontrollable laughter was actually triggered by a simple gesture. During the performance of INU, Jungkook was seen pointing toward Jimin right as Jimin hit a high note. That brief gesture triggered Jimin's spontaneous reaction, leading him to laugh with visible excitement. Although it only lasted a few seconds, the interaction left a strong impression on viewers. This moment shows how nonverbal communication often becomes the most honest form of interaction on stage. Without many words, only through eye contact, smiles, and small gestures, they are able to create a lively and natural atmosphere. It is no surprise that many fans feel BTS's dynamics on stage always feel emotional and unique. In addition, there are also other recordings showing Jimin and Jungkook in similar situations during ARIH, where both appeared very natural in their movements. Many fans see these moments as revealing the softest side of their interaction, not just as performers, but as individuals whose closeness is shown through subtle gestures on stage. The presence of moments like these makes concerts not just musical performances, but emotional experiences full of stories. Every second feels valuable because it captures the human side of the members amid the intensity of the stage. The interaction between Jimin and Jungkook continues to be widely discussed because its simplicity leaves a deep impression. Finally, appreciation should be given to fans who have documented every one of these moments. Without their recordings, many small details might have been lost amid the grandeur of the concert. In the end, this concert is not just about one moment, one interaction, or one interpretation. It is about how millions of people see the same thing, yet understand it in different ways. From the energetic stage to the interpretive digital space, every moment will always live longer than its own duration. But behind all of it, one thing remains the same. The concert holds so many genuine warm moments, including the small, natural, and spontaneous interaction between Jimin and Jungkook on stage. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want to keep following discussions like this on Jikook Moments. See you in the next video.